You know what you need to do. The deadline is approaching. The plan is clear. Yet hours pass, days even, and that task still untouched. Sound familiar? You're not lazy. You're not broken. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The problem isn't motivation, it's mindset. What if I told you there's a simple shift that can push you into action, even when you feel stuck? This shift has the power to rescue your potential from slipping through your fingers. And if you don't change something now, you'll keep watching your ambitions get smaller as your hesitation gets louder. How long will you let fear keep you frozen? How many dreams will you let burn at the edges, scorched by doubt? Every time you whisper, "not yet," to yourself, you're not pausing. You're pulling threads from the very fabric of your future. Today we're going deep. Deep into the fears you avoid, the stories you tell yourself, and the quiet lies that guide your decisions. Because here's the truth. Embracing discomfort, leaning into action, will reshape your life. And it all starts now. If you're finding value in this journey, hitting that subscribe button is a simple, free gesture that helps this message reach others like you and helps me keep sharing this kind of life-shifting insight. Let's unlock the secret to taking back control of your time, your focus, and your momentum. 1. Why we wait, the inner battle with procrastination. You're not alone in this. Procrastination isn't just a bad habit, it's a symptom. Most people think procrastination means laziness or a lack of discipline. But at its core, it's not about energy. It's about fear. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of not being perfect. So we wait, we delay. We stare at the task and avoid it. Not because we don't care, but because we care too much. And we're terrified that we might not do it right. Our mind builds a wall of imagined outcomes, and behind that wall, it tells us a lie. It's safer not to try than to try and fail. So we retreat into comfort, scrolling, snacking, binge watching, anything that keeps us from facing that invisible threat. 2. Psychology and philosophy. Why fear grows when we run from it. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." And that's exactly what happens with procrastination. The more we avoid, the more monstrous the task becomes. It grows in our minds, fed by anxiety and guilt. But here's the paradox. The pain of avoidance becomes worse than the task itself. The Stoics understood this long ago. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment. Translation, it's not the task that's overwhelming. It's what you're telling yourself about the task. It's your thoughts that paralyze you, not reality. And that's powerful, because if your thoughts created the problem, your thoughts can solve it. 3. Recognize the enemy. Fear disguised as protection. Let's call procrastination what it really is, a defense mechanism. It's your mind trying to protect you from perceived harm. But once you understand that fear is wearing a mask, you can see through the disguise. Ask yourself, are you truly in danger? Or are you just afraid of being imperfect? Most of the time, the worst-case scenario we imagine never comes true. And even if it does, it's rarely as bad as we feared. So how do we break the cycle? Start small. The Stoics preached a principle that's more relevant than ever. Focus on what's within your control. And what's within your control? Your next step, just one small step. 4 small steps, big shifts. Break the big task into something so tiny it feels laughable. Don't aim to write the entire article. Just write the title. Don't plan the entire business. Just open the document. The secret? Momentum. And momentum is born from movement, not motivation. Each small win builds confidence, and confidence chips away at fear. Mistakes? They're part of the process. Each error is feedback. Each misstep is learning. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But once you do, once you accept that imperfection is part of progress, you rob fear of its power. The 5-minute rule, a tool for action. If you've never heard of the 5-minute rule, let me introduce you to one of the most deceptively powerful tools in productivity. Here's how it works. Pick a task. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Commit to working on it with full focus until the timer rings. That's it. 5 minutes. It sounds simple, and it is. But this rule sidesteps your inner resistance by lowering the commitment threshold. 5 minutes doesn't feel threatening, but once you start, something amazing happens. You often keep going. Why? Because action quiets the fear. It ignites clarity. It builds momentum. And as you engage, you often do more than you planned. You break the cycle. You reclaim control. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing something. 6. Why 5 minutes is enough to rewire your brain. So you've taken the first step. Maybe you wrote one sentence. Maybe you organized your desk. And maybe you've started to feel it, that shift. Let's talk about why the 5-minute rule is more than just a productivity hack. It's a psychological switch. And once it flips, momentum does the rest. The beauty of this method lies in its simplicity. It's not threatening. It doesn't demand hours of your day. It only asks for 5 minutes, 5 tiny minutes. That's why it works. Even the worst procrastinators, the ones with a PhD in avoidance, can agree to 5 minutes. It's an almost negligible commitment. But the real magic? Once you begin, momentum kicks in, and stopping becomes the harder option. This phenomenon is explained by something called the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological principle that shows we remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks more vividly than completed ones. Once your brain starts something, it stays engaged. It wants to finish. That unfinished task becomes a thread your mind itches to pull. So 5 minutes can trigger a mental cascade that carries you far beyond what you intended.
7. Stoicism and the power of the present moment. From a philosophical perspective, this tiny rule aligns perfectly with ancient Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius taught us to place our full energy into what's in front of us, to focus on the now. Concentrate every minute on the performance of the task at hand with precise and genuine seriousness. The 5-minute rule does exactly that. It anchors your attention in the present. No future what-ifs, no past regrets, just now. The Stoics remind us, we are not disturbed by events, but by our judgments about them. When a task feels overwhelming, it's usually not the task itself, it's your thoughts about it. But if you narrow your focus to the next 5 minutes, suddenly the mountain flattens into a molehill. 8. Jung and the value of meaningful action. Carl Jung also offered insights that speak to this method. He believed, the least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Even 5 minutes of focused, meaningful effort can add more value to your day and your psyche than hours spent scrolling aimlessly or avoiding work out of fear. You don't need to slay the dragon in one go. Just take a swing. And here's another benefit. This method releases you from the prison of perfectionism. You're not committing to finishing flawlessly, you're committing to starting. That's it. Once you begin, perfection no longer has power over you. You shift from paralyzed to productive. 9. Lowering the wall, finding the flow. Many of us build up our tasks to mythical proportions. We stare at the entire mountain, feeling too small to climb it. But what if we just took the first step? Starting makes the mountain seem smaller. Because action lowers anxiety. When you begin even imperfectly, your brain shifts from dread to engagement. The task becomes real, not imagined. This is why the 5-minute rule works so well for people who feel overwhelmed by even the smallest to-dos. It breaks through the fog. You go from, "I can't," to, "I'll try." And that change in language is everything. 10. The philosophy of small wins. If starting feels like standing at the base of a mountain, the 5-minute rule gives you a rope, not to scale the whole thing immediately, but to gain your footing. This isn't just a task management strategy, it's a mindset, one echoed by both modern psychology and timeless philosophy. The Stoic Seneca famously said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." His advice? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't freeze in the shadow of enormity. Break big into small. One moment, movement, one decision. That's how you conquer what overwhelms you. 11. Action over intention. In psychology, we know that breaking down tasks reduces cognitive load. When we see a project as a whole, it floods our minds. It feels too heavy to lift. But when we cut it into pieces, we lighten the load. We make action easier to initiate. Carl Jung captured this perfectly. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. By committing to just 5 minutes, you redefine yourself. Not as someone who plans, but as someone who moves. So instead of write the report, try this. Pick the topic by Tuesday. Write 300 words of the introduction by Wednesday. Proofread section 1 by Thursday. Now, the once daunting task has transformed into a series of small, conquerable missions. And each one offers you a quick win-a-small reward that reinforces your effort. These wins add up. They become the track your momentum rides on. 12. Building momentum through microtasks. Now that we've embraced the power of starting small, let's explore how to keep that momentum alive. How to transform one simple decision into a full-on wave of progress. Ever stared at your to-do list and felt paralyzed by just one line? Something like, write the report. That single vague task can feel as heavy as a boulder. It's ambiguous, it's undefined. And because of that, it's terrifying. But watch what happens when you break it down. Select report topic by Tuesday. Write 300 words of the introduction by Wednesday. Edit and revise the introduction on Thursday. Now you've got clarity. You've created a step-by-step roadmap. Instead of facing an unscalable wall, you're climbing a staircase own clear step at a time. And with every step, you win. Each micro-task becomes a mini victory, a completed piece, a box you get to check. And that's where psychology kicks in. 13. The Zeigarnik effect and your brain's love for unfinished business. According to the Zeigarnik effect, your brain is wired to remember incomplete tasks more vividly than completed ones. That means once you start even a tiny portion, your brain doesn't want to let it go. It stays alert. It wants closure. That mental tension can actually serve you. It keeps your focus on the task. It nudges you back, like a bookmark in your mind. This explains why breaking projects into smaller segments works so well. Every time you complete a piece, your brain gets a dose of satisfaction, a release, and that reward propels you forward. Plus, smaller segments reduce the mental load. You're not carrying the whole weight at once, you're spreading it out. That makes everything feel lighter and more achievable. 14. Think like an agile, evolve as you go. In the tech world, there's something called agile methodology. It's the process of building and improving things in small, iterative chunks, launching a bit, learning from it, then adjusting the next chunk based on what you've learned. Now, imagine applying that to your personal goals. Instead of waiting to perfect the entire plan before you begin, you start with what you know. Take action. Learn. Adjust. Mistakes become feedback. Each step becomes data. Each decision becomes growth. This mindset doesn't just build flexibility, it builds resilience. Because you're not waiting for perfection. You're working with what you have, one moment at a time. 15. The first step is the hardest but most powerful. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." We've all heard it. But how often do we apply it? Every small step you take, whether it's outlining a report, responding to an email, or tidying your spaces like a brushstroke in the painting of your life. One alone might not seem significant, but taken together, they create the masterpiece. Small steps aren't meaningless. They're the only way anything meaningful ever gets done. 16. Action comes, first motivation follows. Now here's the part that flips traditional thinking on its head. Motivation doesn't come first. Action does. We're taught to believe that once we feel inspired, we'll finally take action. But the truth is, waiting for motivation is like waiting for perfect weather in a city known for storms. Instead, when you take action even just 5 minutes, you start a feedback loop. That first spark of progress ignites momentum, and with momentum comes motivation. 17. The science of behavioral activation. Psychologists call this behavioral activation. When you do something, anything meaningful, your mood improves, your energy rises, your confidence grows. Carl Jung echoed this when he said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Intentions are invisible. Actions leave footprints. So take the step. Do the thing. Don't wait. 18. Stoic action in the face of resistance. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles aren't walls, they're paths. The discomfort you feel before starting isn't a sign to stop. It's a signal to begin. Every time you move through resistance, you build strength. You train your mind to act, regardless of how you feel. 19. Turn small tasks into big energy. Think about the last time you forced yourself to clean your desk. At first, you didn't feel like it. But 5 minutes in, you were organizing drawers, tossing papers, vacuuming the corners. Why? Because action creates momentum. The more you move, the more you want to move. You've seen this in action in your own life? This principle is called the progress principle even. Small progress on meaningful tasks boosts emotions, energy, and engagement. And there's a biochemical bonus too. Every little success releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter tied to motivation and reward. Your brain feels good, so it wants more. 20. Final truth: act first, think later. So if you've been waiting for motivation to strike, stop. Don't wait for the lightning bolt. Become the spark. Choose a small task. Take 5 minutes. Begin. Because when you act first, motivation doesn't just follow, it multiplies. Start small. Stay consistent. And you'll discover what every Stoic, every creator, and every doer knows. Action isn't just the path, it's the power. 21. How starting small shifts your entire state. When you take that very first step, whether it's writing the subject line of an email or opening a blank document, you shift your entire state of being. You move from stillness to momentum, from resistance to flow. And here's the beautiful part. Each action makes the next one easier. The smaller the action, the lower the resistance. The less you have to climb, the more willing your brain is to take the leap. And once you've started, stopping becomes the harder choice. You've sparked momentum, and momentum is a powerful force. This idea feeds directly into a feedback loop. Action breeds motivation, and motivation leads to more action. This is how tiny decisions snowball into extraordinary progress. 22. The hidden power of visualization. Now, let's dive into a technique that might sound like something you'd hear in a self-help seminar, but it's grounded in both ancient Stoic wisdom and modern neuroscience. Visualization. This isn't about fantasy or daydreaming. It's about mentally rehearsing your future. It's about vividly picturing yourself achieving your goals, succeeding at your tasks, and embodying your best self so clearly that your brain starts to believe it's already possible. Why does this work? Because when you visualize, you activate the same neural pathways as you do when actually performing the task. Athletes use this method all the time. A basketball player visualizing the perfect shot. A sprinter imagining the rush of crossing the finish line. This mental rehearsal boosts confidence and primes both mind and body for action. And it's not just athletes who benefit. You can apply this to your everyday life. Spend just a few minutes each morning visualizing yourself completing your most important task. See it in detail. Feel the satisfaction. Imagine the outcome. That vision becomes a blueprint your brain wants to fulfill. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." That's exactly what happens when we dwell on failure or fear. But when we visualize success, we shift that energy. We train our minds to expect the best, not just fear the worst. 23. Stoic visualization, prepare for reality. Interestingly, the Stoics practiced their own version of visualization. It was called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. They would imagine what could go wrong, not to invite suffering, but to prepare for it. This mental training built emotional resilience. They knew that by envisioning setbacks ahead of time, they would be less shaken if those events ever occurred. You can combine both worlds. Visualize your success and prepare for challenges. This balance keeps your optimism grounded and your confidence realistic. It strengthens your mental readiness. 24. Use the power of now. Stop waiting for someday. Let's face it, "I'll do it tomorrow," is the most seductive lie we tell ourselves. We pile our dreams, goals, and ambitions into the mysterious future, hoping motivation will suddenly descend from the heavens. But tomorrow never really comes. It's always out of reach. The Stoics taught that the present moment is all we truly own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. The perfect moment you're waiting for doesn't exist. What does exist is this one, right now, this second." Psychologists have found that when you begin even with a tiny step, you reduce anxiety and increase the likelihood of continuing. This is thanks to the zygotic effect, which keeps unfinished tasks active in your mind until resolved. By starting now, you engage your brain's natural desire for closure, and each action you take is a declaration. I don't just intend to act, I am acting. 25. Reward yourself and reinforce your habits. Here's another powerful principle. Don't forget to reward your progress. Productivity isn't just about pushing harder. It's also about creating a sustainable rhythm. When you reward yourself after completing tasks, whether it's a cup of coffee, a short walk, or watching your favorite show, you reinforce the behavior. This ties into behavioral psychology. Rewards create a positive association with effort. They increase the likelihood that you'll repeat the process. Stoicism doesn't advocate for indulgence, but it does teach the value of recognizing what's good. Marcus Aurelius spoke about the satisfaction of duties well performed. In a modern sense, this means pausing to appreciate what you've accomplished. Carl Jung emphasized embracing all aspects of ourselves, including our desire for joy and recognition. When you celebrate your progress, you not only fuel your future motivation, you affirm your worth. Just remember, rewards should support your path, not distract from it. They're not escapes, they're milestones. 26. Small steps, big transformation. Each small action, each visualization, each reward, they're all bricks in the foundation of long-term change. And what's more stoic than that? Using the present moment wisely, embracing action over words, taking responsibility for what's within your power. So, next time you feel stuck, don't wait for the stars to align. Start small, see clearly, act boldly, reward meaningfully, and you'll discover that discipline, motivation, and success are not magical forces. They're habits built one moment at a time.